Hey guys, today I'm going to be taking a look at GhostBSD. This is of course a BSD distribution rather than a Linux one, and the version that I'm going to be looking at is the development release 10.3, and this is the release candidate 1, so the first release candidate. So this is not really a good example of the finished product, but I've been having a look at it. I've run it through a virtual machine today, and I think there are some things that you might like to take a look at. But don't treat this as like a proper or serious review. Just treat this as me having a play around with this in a virtual machine for a few hours and then sort of introducing it to you as a possible thing to sort of keep an eye on, because it's certainly an interesting distribution, and I'm really liking where BSD is going these days. So I'm just going to give you a run of the operating system, but it's going to be a pretty standard first impressions review. Also, I would like to apologize. You can see that horrible artifacting around there on my mouse cursor for the last couple of videos. That's just a bug with VirtualBox. I've had a look and have been unable to fix it, but I suspect that it will get fixed perhaps in the next release of VirtualBox, or at least that's the hope. So it comes with a pretty standard XFCE desktop with a nice little sort of like a command line terminal box thing there. So if you just wanted to type in the name of an application, you could. So for example, I think you could do Firefox, and then it should pop up. Again, of course, because I'm running this in a virtual machine, don't take the performance aspect of this sort of first impressions video too seriously. Some things run faster and some things run slower. So yeah, for example, you can just type in Firefox and up comes the browser. So that's quite nice if you're a keyboard orientated person. Of course, this being the XFCE desktop environment, it's super customizable in any way you can imagine. It also comes with a pretty nice selection of desktop backgrounds. Now, I know this is a really superficial thing, but I do actually quite like it when I just sort of start customizing a distribution and just seeing what the options are and what's come bundled with the distribution, to see a really good sort of selection of very nice looking desktop environments that I haven't seen on any other distribution. Oh, that is a beautiful photograph. Look at that. I'm going to keep that one. So it's little touches like this that really sort of warm me up to a Linux distribution. It's little touches that that just make it feel a bit more complete, that there's less that you have to do once it's installed, and all of that kind of stuff. It makes it feel a little bit more complete. So I've played around with the customization options quite a bit already. That's usually sort of part of the testing that I do to see what themes come pre-installed, because if there is one thing that Linux and BSD distributions just have not got down is theming. It's complicated, and most distributions don't come pre-installed with enough themes that you can sort of adequately customize your distribution without having to go into like the AUR or to go to a third-party website, which I don't think you should really do given the strengths that Linux and BSD have. So it's a very superficial critique, but it is one that I feel separates Linux from perhaps sort of, you know, mass adoption. Of course, you could always go down the GNOME route and really just limit customization and just have maybe a light theme and a dark theme, and just make sure that they're polished and you know, error free, and then just run with them and sort of remove the customization options completely. It will you know, it will cause less breakages. It will keep things simpler, but of course, you know, part of the fun of Linux is that we get to play around with it, and we get to hack it apart and put it back together again. So there's a degree of philosophy that comes into this as well. Of course, you can then just install GNOME tweak tools and get the best of both worlds, if GNOME wasn't so resource intensive. Anyway, this is getting a bit off track here. Standard XFCE desktop environment. It comes with let's see, where's the Office suite? Yeah, it comes with LibreOffice. It comes with the GNOME M player, which is a nice lightweight player. As you can see here, this is OBS. I've just installed this using the package manager, so I'm sort of running this for the first time, and it looks, yeah, that's pretty good. So OBS is the software package that I look for explicitly to see what kind of software the repositories are holding. If it's got OBS, that means that it's generally sort of got its ear to the ground in what's being released and the software that people want. And if a distribution is particularly sort of trailing behind or struggling to have a large set of software repositories behind it, it'll probably, OBS will be one of the things they omit, or tends to be one of the things they omit. That's changing more and more as time goes by, but I usually just consider it a personal benchmark. So it comes as a pretty full-featured desktop. There are plenty of applications here. It's almost indistinguishable from just about any other distribution out of the box. Now, as you can see, I am actually running a dark theme. I'll just pull up, what have we got here? Files. Oh, so that's a GTK theme, so it uses the standard Adwaita, I don't know how to pronounce that, GTK theme. And I don't actually know why the GNOME or the GNOME files is actually there. Thunar, that's the one. So this is the native one for XFCE. And as you can see here, it's got a real nice dark theme. And I can go into the settings manager. I do like the XFCE settings manager. We can look at appearance. Now, I've used XFCE dusk theme because I do like dark themes. I just find them a little bit easier on the eyes. But as you can see, that doesn't necessarily look too great on GTK themes, and as you saw with OBS just now, Qt themes. Now, in my personal opinion, they look fine. I mean, I don't use that many Qt applications, and I'd rather they work than looked perfect. But the XFCE dusk theme probably is not compatible with the GNOME 3.20 upgrades. I could be wrong on that one. So Gnomics, this was the default theme that came with the distribution, and this one does look significantly more compatible with GTK 3 applications. If I just pull up OBS, we'll see if it's Qt4 compatible or Qt5. But it doesn't look so. No. Okay, so Qt applications still look not a part of that theme, which take it as a criticism, but depending on how important you put these things, you consider these things, take it as it comes. Okay, so let's talk about installing software. Octo package. This is very similar to Octopi, Qt-based package manager. You can type in Firefox and have a look at that. So we've got Firefox Firefox 47 already installed. So it's so that's sort of the version you're looking at there. Does it have Chromium? Yes, it does. And we can look at the info. Google web browser based on WebKit 41. So I won't download and install that now, but it is in the software repositories should you require it. Is Pepper Flash in there? Let's have a look. It doesn't look like it is. I don't know if that's because of a compatibility with BSD, or whether or not it's just that they don't really consider Flash to be that important to bundle with it, or possibly even they may consider it a security risk, because I know that a lot of people do consider Flash to be a security risk. So so there are plenty of good reasons perhaps for not including it on your distribution. But actually, let's just have a look at Firefox and have a look at see if it comes Flash supported. I think the only website I can think of that runs Flash these days is Twitch, and even they're moving over to HTML5 soon. I think it's the front page. I think it explicitly uses Flash. Yeah. Yeah, okay, so it does come Flash supported, just not with Pepper Flash, it seems. Maybe if I looked a little deeper I could try and find it. But that's really about all there is to show. I mean, it's a standard XFCE desktop on top of a BSD distribution that, at least running in a virtual machine, I haven't had any problems whatsoever, actually. The installation process was very easy. I think it could use a little boost in the eye candy department. It does look a little bit dated, but that's something that's easily rectifiable if you're willing to actually install a theme. And I wouldn't say that, if I say that Linux isn't really ready for mainstream adaptation, or at least the free and open source distributions, then I think BSD might be a step behind that. But it's promising. It's very promising, and it's nice that there is an alternative to Linux. That Linux doesn't completely run the show. Now, of course, most people will say that Linux is better on the desktop than BSD-based distributions, and that BSD-based distributions tend to have a better time, running servers and so forth. I don't necessarily take that completely as read, but I can see that that's where they specialize. this is definitely something that I could use. I could deploy this, and providing that, you know, depending on the use case of the machine, this is a fine distribution just to deploy and set. For the first RC candidate, playing around for 2 to 3 hours, probably closer to 4 at this point, and I've not come across a single bug. There have been a few things that are a little rough around the edges, a little things that are clearly tailored for more advanced users than intermediate or beginners, but in essence, this is something that I can really get behind, and I think that they're doing a lot of great work here. And I think that sort of any criticisms that I can really level at this, running it in the use case that I currently am in a virtual machine, they're superficial, really. I mean, there could be more packages in the repository, but then again, that's if you're using it for pretty straightforward use cases. For example, if you only need a machine to run LibreOffice or to check email or to run a printer, this does the job just as well as any Linux distribution. So, you know, and I like XFCE Desktop. It's lightweight but customizable and easy to use. To me, it hits all those balances. It also, because it doesn't have new releases that often, it also tends to be quite stable, I find. Now, I know there are a lot of people that disagree with me on that one, and I think that whenever I say that something is stable, sort of all the people that have had a problem with it do come forward at that point. So I can only sort of, again, claim from my personal experience. But also, because the desktop environment seems to get a new release maybe about once a year, that means that once you sort of fix a problem or find a workaround or manage to patch something with a script or whatever, that can be a year before that problem either needs to be readdressed or is fixed. So I think there is a lot to be said. I think XFCE is a particularly good choice for rolling releases when you just want a degree of stability where you can find it. But then customizable, and it can look good. A lot of people do say that XFCE looks a little dated, but you find a good theme, you get some good compositing effects. Hell, you don't even need to use the compositing effects that come with XFCE. You could put in compiz, or heaven forbid, you could probably get Kwin to work, but that seems that doesn't really exactly seem like it clicks too nicely. But anyway, I do recommend giving GhostBSD a go. The first release candidate is out, and I can't speak for its hardware support, so I will put that as a caveat. As I understand it, Linux is supported, the Linux kernel is supported on many more devices than the BSD kernel, but if the BSD kernel works and runs well, and all of this comes along in tow, you've got a really promising and cracking distribution here that's an alternative to Linux, and I think that that's worth celebrating. So thank you very much for watching. Give it a try. Give me your thoughts down in the comments section below. I'm probably going to be playing around with it a little more in the old virtual machine, because it's just a little bit outside. You know, it's a little bit outside of my sort of Linux comfort zone. But it is nice to see that it's a project that seems to be doing really quite well, and it certainly looks very nice. So that's about it from me today. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, I've been Chris Ware, and you've been awesome. Take care now.